Hi guys, Brent here from Catamaran MP. A few of you have asked me what we did about fuel polishing, dirty fuel and fuel transfer when we were sailing to Indonesia. Some of you know that when we were in Cairns we actually set this up and we tried to make it very simple, keep it affordable. We're back from Indonesia. I'm actually going to do a video series on our whole trip through COVID and everything through Indonesia. It's a long story as to how we actually managed to get back into Australia. Now, part of how this came about for us is that I wasn't prepared to spend the money that people wanted to polish fuel, and ridiculously expensive in my opinion. So we went down to NZ, which is a hydraulic outlet, and we basically put together our own plan as to how we would do this on a sort of a process that works well, works cost effectively and keeps us cruising. But we can tell you that we completed our whole trip through Indonesia using fuel from all types of sources, and the system really worked well. So we're talking from a point of strength, and we're ready to actually put this on YouTube because we know it works for us. It's a pretty simple system. You've got to use your head a little bit by changing valves and things like that, but it's pretty straightforward when you get the knack of it, and as I say, did us proud in Indonesia.
Most filters are designed not to take more than 4 litres per minute flow. Since our Raycor funnel was now 10 years old and has served us well, we opted to buy a new one called Mr. Funnel, which has a flow rate of around 45 litres per minute. We also upgraded our fuel transfer pump from a 15 litre per minute to 21 litre per minute flow. It has an automated suction ability up to 3 meters head, which I quite liked. Our tanks are located in a position with a 1 meter head. We already have fuel transfer lines installed from both port and starboard tanks, which will couple to these points here. Before we move on, let's just pause to look at the setup. Our transfer pump is here. It is multi-directional by use of an integrated switch. To the port and starboard of the pump is a mirror image to either side, so let's just look at one side for now. We double it up for the other side. We have an on-off valve to or from the tank. We have a T-fitting with extension pieces to either side depending on your boat's setup and to allow for easy and full movement of the valve handle. We have another on-off valve here with a male to female quick coupling and valve here.
Okay, so my engine room actually sits under these covers over here. This is a Lagoon 440. I've modified quite a few things here. But you can see over here, this is the main pump for the fuel transfer system.
Okay guys, I'm not great at presentations, but this is just to give a feel for how the unit is installed. But the other sort of where the parts were just lying next to each other is probably more easy for me to explain. We could quick couple a setup that transfers fuel from these fittings right here. However, I want to add a T for convenience on either side of the pump. As mentioned, the pump has a reversible rotation switch, so it can transfer diesel from either side. By closing and opening valves, we can choose how diesel will flow. These two control diesel to and from the tanks, whilst these two control diesel to and from external sources. We can bypass the tanks altogether if we want to filter fuel from one container to another.
Right, so here's in the engine room, and I have this box which sits nicely in the engine room. It contains the items which I will unpack for you that fit into the fuel polishing, fuel transfer system, which sits right there on a board. Mr. Funnel. I've got a plug in the end of it just to stop diesel from running around. I have some Velcro straps on there, so we'll just put that over here for now. So that is Mr. Funnel, ready to go. I have this pipe which is well used. It discolors after time, unfortunately. I have a little valve on the end there, that is the outlet, and then on the other side I have a valve as well and I'll show you how that all works. This is actually my suction hose. It is 7 meters long. Right, so that is the suction. This one over here is the delivery hose, and this one over here is basically my filtration. This is all set up in my port side engine room. I've also put this pump, you can see it's mounted on a black frame over there. That is so that I can swivel this. So I've got one screw in the middle which I very easily undo, and I can swivel this whole contraption up in order to get to the underside of it to change out the impeller whenever I need to change out the impeller. Right, so for example, on our suction line, you can see I've got this fitting over here. You can see that retracts on a spring, and so that can easily just clip onto here, and there we go, presto, that is now clipped in. And I've got valves on the side of this pipe so that it basically just keeps diesel from flowing out.
Guys, let me just explain this a bit better. The valves are basically there so that when I disconnect the pipe again, I can close the valve and it stops diesel from flowing and making a mess in the boat. Basically, I can store the pipe nicely and the contents in the pipe don't run back into the boat and all over the show.
The one thing with valves is when they are not in line and they are against the line, they are closed. When you want to open the line, then you would turn the valve to the open position so it's in line. So if I put these two valves in line, that would mean that fuel is flowing through these lines but not through here, because these are perpendicular to the line, so they have closed those lines off. That fundamentally is a very important thing to know when you're working with this type of system that's not fully automated and quite manual, but it does save a lot of money. So just remember, when these valves are in line, the lines are open and flow can happen. When they are against the line, they are closed and they will block flow. So to open that line, we would open these valves. That means flow can happen through here, but not get beyond this point because it's perpendicular to the line. It cannot get out here because it's perpendicular.
Right, again I have to just come in here. It's always important to remember that flow has to happen past the pump before it can be diverted to another location. That's because the pump is rotating and fluid has to actually flow through the pump to the opposite side before it can move. So just remember, fluid always flows past the pump before being diverted.
So in this case we're going to be transferring fuel through the pump, sucking the fuel in using this pump here, okay, and transferring it to the other side. Right, now this is my feed line, and I have the part that I would basically fit onto this fitting here, and it's also, as you can see, it's also got a quick spring on it, so it's a quick connector, and so we'll just connect that up quickly. That is now connected, and on the other end of this pipe, this tube, I've got this sort of a fitting. Now this is just you can make it up any which way you want. I just had these pieces lying around, so this is what I used. But basically this would go into the funnel or into a container. If I'm sucking from one container through to another container, for example, for whatever reason I want to do that, then basically I can control it over here. And because I have two valves on this tube, one at each end, means that I can close it off, and any diesel that wants to spill out of these lines into the boat won't spill into the boat. Okay, I've put up a little bit of a shade here because I've got too much sunlight on me, but basically this over here is a funnel. It's called Mr. Funnel. Yeah, I've put these Velcro strips on the tube, and that allows me just to take this funnel, and it fits nicely on my boat here. You might need to adjust this for the type of boat that you have, and I just stick them onto parts of the boat randomly, and this way it keeps the funnel upright. Okay, so this way we can see that all the valves are closed. They're running perpendicular to all the lines. So if I want to run fuel from one tank to the other, I'm going to open this valve like so, and I'm going to open the opposite side valve like so, and that means that fuel will run through this pipe now. And so fuel basically can run from the port side tank to the starboard side tank. If I want to divert fuel, not from that tank, but from a container down into the tank, into the starboard tank, I'd shut off the port tank so that goes perpendicular. Okay, and I'd open up these two. This is my suction line, and it would now run down through this pump. It can't come up here because these valves are closed, and it would basically run in line. As you can see, that's open. So in this state, it couldn't run to the port side tank. It can only run from the open valve side in line through the pump. In that rotation, won't come out of here, and it will flow to the starboard side tank. If we want to run it from container to container, then I'll close off the starboard side tank. I would open up the feed side of the other pipe, and now the valves are set up not to run from tank to tank, but to run from a container or an external source through the pump and back out through the feed sides. And we can do this in vice versa rolls, or any which way we want to do it. You could go from tank to container. So now what I want to do is I want to polish fuel basically just in a circuit, and I want to do it on the port side. I could run it from port to starboard through a filter, but what I'm going to do is run it from port, and I'm going to run it through a filtration back into port just to clean up the fuel. So what I would then do is I'd keep this side closed, which is the starboard side tank. I would close off the suction line because I'm not sucking from external sources, and I would basically open the port side tank, and I would have everything shut off except for the feed line, which I'm going to take to the filter. From the filter, I've set it up to basically go from the filter all the way around and into the tank. So I'm taking my nozzle and I'm going to put it into my Mr. Funnel. So I'm going to go ahead and open it here. I'm just going to leave this lever half closed so that it doesn't spurt into the funnel when I get going. And I'm now ready to start polishing from this side. I don't actually need this pipe on here, so let's just take that off because it confuses things. Right, that is closed. As you can see, it's basically closed. In line, check that that is closed. Fuel is going to come up here. We're going to be pumping in this direction, so okay, that is flowing nicely, as you can see. Circular motion there, it's very nice. And the diesel is flowing through the pipe. And we are now filtering fuel. Okay, so when we're done, I can simply turn this off. I will close these pipes off here. I don't want any mess coming back towards the boat, so I keep it all clean. I turn off all the little valves, and I can empty this pipe in a controlled fashion later on. Okay guys, so when I take this off, I just want to be careful that I'm not going to drip a bit of fuel. I've got both these turned to the off position. I'll just take a cloth because it's the best practice to do this, and I just put it underneath to make sure I don't get any drips. And that's caught any sort of drips that would come off from the little bit of surplus that is left inside this this fitting. Any sort of drips have gone into the rag. and it's nice and clean.
Okay guys, before we finish off here, I just want to mention that we do other things to help us with our fuel quality. It's a fantastic product. It converts accumulated moisture from, for example, condensation in your fuel tank, fungal growths, and it does this into microscopic particles, also dissolving gums, varnish, asphaltenes. It has many advantages for your engine. Protecting the engine is very important to me. I like to use the right products because I do all the maintenance and repair overall type work myself, and we generally have to do it in a yard somewhere. Our crane becomes the davits on the back of the boat, for example, and this all means that I want to use good products and correct maintenance procedures to make sure that I have less work and more time to enjoy on the islands. Okay, so I'm sure a lot of you would be interested in what we did after years and years of full-time cruising. Here we'd actually removed the engine, we'd removed the sail drives, we pretty much stripped the boat actually, and we just went through everything, cleaned it all up, spray painted it. The sump came off because we had some pit marks in it, had that sandblasted, resprayed. I'll do a separate video on all of this. So we do add products like Fuel Doctor. There's many other products too that do a similar thing. From time to time we add them to improve fuel quality. We also went ahead and replaced the Mickey Mouse diesel water separators as supplied originally with our boat, and we replaced that with the Raycor glass bowl diesel fuel filter and water separator by Parker. I think this is key to diesel filtration, and in all the time sailing through Indonesia and many generator hours to keep the air conditioner going, we replaced fuel filters once as per our standard service requirements, and we never had an engine go down due to fuel contamination. So I do believe that the system works, and I hope it's going to work for you guys too. For now, I'm sure one gets the idea as to how we intend to filter our fuel, and I hope for those who asked us to share this with them that this is of help to you. Now, by the way, we get no compensation from anyone for the products that we share with you here. It's done out of love for the sailing community. Mr. Funnel traps water, dirt, debris, and even algae. It's worth having it on your boat. I love that the filter is self-cleaning and one does not have to carry additional filters which would need to be disposed of in landfill sites. Of course, we still have our usual diesel filtration system on the boat for our engines, but we can now suck diesel from cans in a dinghy or other boat alongside us, or we can filter cans delivered to the boat by people in Indonesia. It's all quite easy with a pump rated at 21 liters per minute and a funnel capable of passing 45 liters per minute. Well, cheers everyone. Impy out.